Hi everyone, this is Jenai Morehead of Foundation Consultants, and today I want to talk about how to review a grant or what's behind reviewing a grant. So behind every grant there is review criteria. That means that there must be a way to judge whether the grant passes enough points to be awarded to the applicant. And so I wanted to show you some things that you can study actually online. And so let me get my glasses on and we can start. There we go. Alrighty, I'm going to make my screen, the screen of me, a little smaller. There we go. Might have disappeared or gone in the corner. And I'm going to pull up the internet. And here I'm at the California Recycling Center. I'm in the beautiful state of California, and so I use this as an example. So I'm not going to go into the grant writing part of it, but in order to review a grant, there has to be a grant that has to be written, turned in on time, and then a review committee is gathered to review the grants and then score them to see who was awarded. And I always say that that grant writing is all about being able to answer the question in a proper manner so as to convince the reader that you can get the full points, and also to convince the grantor that you deserve the money that you're asking for to do the job that you said you would do in the grant. So for instance, on this page here, this would be a grant for the California Recycling Department, and they have grant scoring criteria. It's a public grant, so nothing is hidden. So they tell you right here that that for whatever grant is out, this is the criteria. There's different sections of the grant that will be scored. For instance, the need or the problem and the justification, your goals and objectives. Here you have to describe in the grant a work plan, an evaluation. This should be a budget. The grant is scored for completeness. In other words, if you did not answer any questions, then of course that would be a lesser score. And then here, number 7, evidence of a recycled content purchasing policy or directive. And then here, let me just drop down. They explain it. I'm not going to go all the way through it. You can get on the page. In this video, I will put the link so you can look at it again. But the need or justification is explain what are they wanting to see in the grant, and also what should the reviewer be looking for in order to score the grant. Okay, so here, these most likely are the questions on the grant. What exactly is the need or problem that you are addressing? That's just one of the questions. And another one could be, why is the project needed locally, regionally, or statewide? So let's go down to goals and objectives, which is really important. This is another scoring criteria. An answer, a question on the grant might be, what do you hope to accomplish? And then we drop down to work plan methodology. These questions may be on the grant. What are the major activities or tasks? Who will need them? And so forth and so on. Now follow me here, because in a minute I'm going to go to the actual evaluation paper or grading scoring paper. Here we have the evaluation, that's in the grant. Here we have the budget. Here we have application completeness and evidence of recycled content purchasing policy or directive. So these are all parts of the grant. And no doubt here, these are the questions on the grant. So after a grant is completed, and it probably is in an application form somewhere else on this website, but we're not concentrating on that now. I'm just showing you the parts of a grant, in particular this recycle grant, that have to be answered. So again, nothing is in secret. So if you look here to the left, which I'm clicking, there is the scoring criteria. And here's the template that the grant reviewers get to score the grant. So again, you will see, let me move my picture out of the way here. You will see that the scoring criteria follows the grant exactly, and they have highlighted here, okay, each of the sections that I just described. So for this grant scoring criteria for this fiscal year, okay, the grant committee or the grants management team will have filled this in for the review team, and they will have told the review team applicants must score a certain percentage of points to be considered for funding. And then here, the person that is reviewing the grant is scoring points. So here, this would be a question on the grant, and then the reviewer here would score it. This would be a question on the grant. A reviewer here would score it to the left. Okay. A question here, what will happen if the organization does not receive the grant? The reviewer is actually looking at the answer to this question on the grant, and then to the left scoring. List relevant past grants, or please address any additional need. These are questions on the grant, and the reviewer would be scoring the grant based on what they would be reading, and the score would be to the left. Same with goals and objectives. We saw that that was part of the grant on the main page. There had to be a work plan, here an evaluation, a budget. Remember, application completeness, evidence of a recycled content purchasing policy, and then program criteria. So then on the left side, the reviewer would add up the total possible program criteria points and the total general and program criteria points. But they're not done, because at a later time, there are other reviewers reviewing the same grant. And so those reviewers would come together in a meeting and then discuss why they scored, because there is a facilitator, and the facilitator has to look at the general score and make some make some decisions, and also ask the reviewers why they scored the way they did. Now, some reviewers get together and they score an average. Pretty much everybody's the same score, give or take maybe 5 or 6 points. But once in a while, there is a reviewer that may have an unusually high score or an unusually low score. And that reviewer then has to tell why. Maybe there's something that everyone missed, or they have another opinion of something. And then the facilitator or management team has to take that into account, whether they will discount that score or include it in the rest of the scores and average things. So that is a little bit about reviewing grants, and I hope that it helped you. So what should you do? Your job is to make sure that you have the capacity to answer the question on any grant to the best of your knowledge. And your answer should be able to convince the grant reviewer that you can do the job you said you would, and that your organization has the capacity to do it. So it's all about being able to answer the question. If you cannot answer the question correctly, or if you can't, if you say something that will convince the reviewer that you don't have the capacity to do your job, then of course you will get a low score. My hope is that you do a really good job and get whatever grants you go after. This is Jenai Morehead of Foundation Consultants, and take care. Don't forget to like my video and subscribe.